I need you to grab a pen right now, because in this video, I am breaking down a bunch of places to find information for starting and running your nonprofit. This is like an ultimate list of places you need to go if you have questions about different topics. I'm going to basically in this video go category by category and give you actual names of organizations, show you websites, show you where you can find certain information. So if that's something that you need, if you're struggling to find information for your startup nonprofit, you have found the right video for you. Let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down different categories of information you may be interested in. And as I go through each category, I'm going to tell you the places that I know are the most reliable to find the information that you need. So the categories I'm going to talk about in the video are startups, compliance, boards, fundraising, and that's a huge category. I'm going to break that one down just a little bit because there are different aspects of fundraising that you need to know about. Policy, finances, and then finally, accountability. So I'm going to jump right in and talk about startup information. The reason why I created Boss on a Budget was because I could not find a lot of information about startup nonprofits. This was years ago at this point now, but I was helping with the launch of a nonprofit and trying to figure out like the best way to get started from the ground up, right? How do you raise money when you literally have $0? There was not a lot of information out there. A lot of the information that I found was for people who already have donors, for people who already have like a strong infrastructure in place and have staff who can do some of this work. And it was speaking to those people. It wasn't speaking to people from the ground up. It wasn't a lot of information on here are the forums. This is where you need to go. This is what you need to pay attention to. There wasn't a place where all that information was together where I could just digest it and understand it. I literally, brick by brick, had to figure it out for myself. So you should not be surprised by this first resource for startup information. It's me, Boss on a Budget. But keep watching this video because I am going to share other resources and be very generous about where you should go. So don't think that this is just a plug for me, but I have compiled a lot of the information that you need for your startup process in one place on my website and here on my YouTube channel. I have over 300, 400 videos just talking from the perspective of startup nonprofits. So if you have not visited my website or if you've not looked on my channel, today is a great place to start if you need information about how to start a nonprofit. If you need to understand the steps for starting a nonprofit, I do have a free startup checklist. So comment startup checklist below and I'll send you the link. So my YouTube channel is a great resource, but there are also other YouTubers that talk about nonprofits, some that specifically talk about nonprofits, and there are some that talk more about accounting or business, and they have a few videos about nonprofits. So I encourage you to use YouTube as a resource to find the information that you need. The search bar on YouTube is your resource, because once you do that, you will find some information about nonprofits that you can look at as well. One other place that I recommend that you go to if you're trying to figure out the startup process for your nonprofit is Harbor Compliance. I do not have any kind of business arrangement with them or partnership with them. I just really like their company and they put out quality information. So if you're trying to figure out startup processes for your state, because they break it up by state, then check out Harbor Compliance and they provide great, clear information for you. Number 2 is compliance. So if you're trying to figure out what's the right paperwork you need to fill out, what are the reports that you need to do on an annual basis, first of all, you need to check out the IRS website, and I'll show you the charities page for the IRS on the screen. The IRS does have quite a bit of information and resources on their website. They actually have trainings that you can take, like a free training on how to stay exempt with the IRS, which directly speaks to compliance. So check them out. I'm linking that below. Also, I recommend that you check out your Secretary of State's office because that's the place where you're going to find out the most accurate information about how to stay compliant for your nonprofit business. Most of you who have nonprofits have incorporated your nonprofit. Well, you incorporate typically at the Secretary of State's office in the state where you're starting your nonprofit, and they have the most accurate and up-to-date information, and you should be calling them. You should be speaking to them. Most offices that I've spoken to, I said this in another video, are very nice, are very kind, and are very generous with the information. So ask your questions and don't be afraid. And even if you have to go into the office, do that to make sure you understand what's required of you, because the rules for nonprofits are different. So there may be fees or different paperwork that you have to fill out as a for-profit that don't apply to you as a nonprofit, but you won't know that and won't understand that until you talk to them. Another place at your state level is the Attorney General's office. So typically the Attorney General's office manages the registration of charities. So this may be called charitable registration or charitable solicitation. If you want to fundraise in your state, they more than likely have regulations or rules about fundraising. So you need to know what those rules are. A lot of times they have handy dandy resources and PDFs for you. And typically they'll have an application process and a fee that you have to submit. Sometimes you're exempt if you're not raising a certain amount of money each year. So you only know that by going to the Attorney General's office. It's usually that office that does it, not all the time, but in most circumstances. But look for charitable registration or charitable solicitation. I'm also going to call out Harbor Compliance again for this category because they have state by state breakdowns of what's required of you, of what the annual report requirements are. They have the names of the forms that you're supposed to submit at every state level. They have the fees for every state, and it's pretty up to date. And when I use it, the links always work for me. And in most circumstances, it's solid information. So if you're looking for compliance information for your state, for your nonprofit, Harbor Compliance is a great resource for that as well. Number 3 is around your board. One great source for information about your board is Board Source. So they have a lot of information about the duties and responsibilities of board members. They have books that they have written and edited. They have PDFs. So if you ever have a question about what is the responsibility of a board president, or what's the responsibility of my board member? What's the language that I'm supposed to use? What are the 3 duties of a board member of a nonprofit? If you've never heard of that, then check out this video that I did before that kind of talks about the duties of board members and what the board of directors is for. But if you need a resource that you even want to pass out to your board members, Board Source is a great website to go to. You can download things. A lot of the stuff is free. Some of it is behind a paywall, but it's solid information that I have used myself. Another resource is Board Effect. So they actually sell a service for board members, but they still have a great resources page. They have blogs and webinars that will give you information about how to engage your board of directors. Another resource that I absolutely love that I found a long time ago is called trainyourboard.com. And it's actually a website of a consulting company that does training for board members. They do fundraising training a lot. I think they also do strategic planning, but they have so many resources listed on their website for activities that you can do with your board members. And they have a lot of great blog articles about how to engage your board members and how to get them more involved in your work to make them more effective. I found that the stories there are really, really useful and really helpful. And I've even used some of their activities or even modified some of those activities for the work that I do for teaching and training nonprofits. I've used their resources and they are really, really solid. Number 4 is a really big category, it's fundraising, but I'm going to break this one down into a couple categories, and I'm lumping fundraising and marketing together because typically the resources that you see for fundraising have a lot to do with marketing and vice versa. And a lot of times when I talk about those 2 categories, I talk about them together. So I'm lumping them together. So for general information about fundraising and resources for marketing for your nonprofit, a cheat code is to use donation platform companies or companies that are CRMs or donor databases for nonprofits. They have really robust marketing folks and they provide webinars all the time, which happen to be free. They have blog articles, they have resources, they have podcasts, YouTube channels. They are a wealth of information when it comes to fundraising. So companies like Bonterra, GiveButter, Bloomerang, DonorDoc, Virtuous. Some of these companies have whole conferences and summits that are free. And you just don't know about them because you don't realize that they are a great resource for that. And a lot of people don't even know they exist, but I just called out a couple of them that are well established and have great resources on their websites. If you want to learn more about government grants and getting government grant funding, you just need to go to grants.gov, so grants.gov, and also check out the Federal Register because they have a listing of federal opportunities that are approaching. The grants.gov website is really a one-stop shop for finding information and resources for government grants. So I would just say go there. When it comes to foundations, one of the best resources on foundations or on grant funding is candid.org. And they also manage the foundation directory online, which is a grant search database where you can find foundations in order to apply for grant funding. Candid has a lot of great online webinars, blog posts, resources. If you sign up, they even have sample grant proposals on their websites. Sometimes it's hard to navigate and find, but you can find the information if you do your due diligence, if you try hard enough. But there are a lot of resources related to grant funding and finding foundations right there on their website. And again, I'll say it's free. So you need to check them out if you can. Also, there are other grant search databases and they put out resources and training and webinars too, like Instrumental or Grant Station. Their goal is to get you to trust them. So they're going to put out resources so you know that they know what they're talking about, so you can think about using their services. So why not take advantage of all the information that they put out for you, their potential customer? Also, if you're interested in grants, just check out the Chronicle of Philanthropy. It's actually like an online periodical. It talks about philanthropy and it talks a lot about foundations and donations and giving in that way. I highly recommend that you follow them because they tend to have like opinion pieces or thought pieces on what's happening in the current news and how it applies to nonprofits or what's happening with foundations and in philanthropy that you need to be aware of. The last thing I'll say for fundraising is there are a lot of great consultants out there who put out information on their website. Also, I want to put a plug in for my friend Sabrina Walker Hernandez, who has a training and a whole framework around engaging your board, particularly when it comes to fundraising. So I'm putting her information also on the screen so you can learn more about her. The last thing I'll say about fundraising is that it's such a broad category that there are different niches within fundraising. So there are some people who are really good at government grants and talking about that. There are some people who are good at major giving. Some people are good at digital fundraising. Some people are good at like sponsorships and things like that. So I cannot possibly name all the consultants that have websites that go live on their Instagram channels, go live on LinkedIn and share this information. I can't possibly share everyone, but I can call out a few that I know put out really solid information. But again, they're not the only people, but they're ones that came to mind for me while I was writing out this video. So one place you need to think about is Get Fully Funded. It's a website that has a lot of great resources, and they also speak to smaller nonprofits. They speak to startup nonprofits. They often have that angle with the resources and the blog articles they have on their website. So check them out. I actually know the founder of Get Fully Funded. She's a wonderful person and they just put out really good, solid information. So check them out at Get Fully Funded. If you want to learn about major gifts, so that's people who give substantial amounts of money to your organization, check out my friend Ria Wong. I actually had her on my channel and we had a great live together. So I'm going to link that video above so that you can check it out to learn how to ask for major gifts for your nonprofit. Another friend that I've done lives with, her name is Mariah Monique. She speaks a lot about corporate sponsorship and she has great resources. So I'm going to provide her information on the screen as well. I could actually go on and on, but I just wanted to call out like particular people who focus on practical advice, resources for those who need help raising money. But please know there are so many talented people out there. And so if you come across a website about a consultant, check out their blogs, check out their resources. A lot of people provide solid information that you don't even have to pay for. And then when you're ready to get to a point where you need to get their services, then you'll know and you can trust them because you follow their information and put it to use. So number 5 is around policies and laws. So I would follow the National Council of Nonprofits. So when it comes to like laws and advocating for laws and policies that benefit the nonprofit sector, they are one of the best places to go to learn about what's happening, to get an analysis about what's happening. And they also advocate on your behalf. Whether you realize it or not, they are one of the main voices of nonprofits on Capitol Hill, advocating for your needs as nonprofits. So you need to be following their website to get updates on things happening, especially at a national policy level. But they also are a great resource for sample policies, sample resources that you can use for your nonprofit. If you're looking for like a gift acceptance policy, or if you're looking for information about executive compensation, start there, because they often have a lot of links and a lot of resources, and they will link to other websites to give you ideas and give you help for creating policies for your nonprofit. Also at your local level, most states have a local nonprofit association, and they more than likely put out resources, blogs, webinars. They probably advocate for nonprofits on the local level. So if you're not clued into your nonprofit association, you should be, as well as your local community foundation. They often serve the role as supporting local nonprofits. They often have information about policy and laws impacting nonprofits, but they put a lot of resources out there as well, and they provide a lot of free resources for local nonprofits. If you're looking for the local community foundation in your area, I am linking and showing you how to find that on this website. So the next category is around finances. This is one of the biggest areas that people struggle with and people are afraid of, like creating a budget or figuring out how to create a daggone financial statement. So one place that I will recommend is Propel Nonprofits. So they have a lot of great resources on financial policies, manuals, templates, and things you need for your nonprofit to help you navigate like how to manage the finances, and also just how to understand what's going on with your finances, and to just understand the language so you're in a better, stronger position when it comes to your finances. Another place, which is a sleeper that I have found, is the Wallace Foundation. Now, it's a foundation that provides resources to certain nonprofits, but they have a lot of resources for their grantees on their website, and they have a budget template that I use actually in my budgeting masterclass, and they have created so many resources and so much help around using this budget template. I love this budget template. It's a little complicated, but it breaks things down by programs. It is a really, really useful tool. So if you haven't, check out the Wallace Foundation. And also, if you need help understanding how to create your first budget or just budgeting in general, my budgeting masterclass, people love it. So if you want to purchase it for yourself, comment budget masterclass and I'll send it to you. And this last one is going to be really quick. It's around accountability. Not necessarily accountability for you individually. That's more like compliance with your state, but just accountability for the philanthropic sector, for nonprofits in general. So I just wanted to call out ProPublica because they do a lot of investigation. They do a lot of fact finding when it comes to nonprofits, with understanding nonprofits. Read the information with a grain of salt, but they do a lot of fact finding and digging about the nonprofit sector. A lot of times they can be really critical, and sometimes I believe that they're a little misguided in their assessments, in their opinions, but it's still a great resource because they publish the 990 forms for nonprofits and foundations. So if you want to see how a foundation has spent their money, who they give their money to, who's on their board, what's their address, what's their phone number, it's their 990 form. They're not the only website that does this. Candid.org also publishes 990s, but when you Google a foundation in 990, ProPublica is more than likely going to come out first. And I just like how it's organized and it's easy to navigate. You can see the information right there. So when it comes more to accountability and making sure that nonprofits are held to a good standard, ProPublica does produce some information that might be useful for you. So I did not talk about every single resource. I'm probably going to save that for other videos because there's so much information out there, but this was a good start for you to find good, reliable places to find the information that you need. If you have great websites that you've used, go ahead and drop that information below. Or if you have questions, if there's something that I didn't cover that you want to know, where do I find this information? Let me know and I'll do another video on it. Thank you so much for watching. If you need help with starting a nonprofit, visit me at bossinabudget.com. I have resources there, some free, some at cost, but all to help you navigate your startup years. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.